Hi there. Welcome to Real Turkey channel. This is your loving, caring presenter, Atilla Yeşilada, sending his greetings to all the Homo sapiens and Neanderthals on this planet from sunny Istanbul. It's 15th of August, Sunday, and in a synopsis, we're talking about the Turkish economy today. The title is a very old one, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. In a nutshell, in summer months, all the data coming from the Turkish economy is going to be great to excellent to outstanding to unbelievable. That is how it is for the rest of the world as well, simply because we're quote unquote normalizing from the COVID 19 related restrictions, lockdowns, curfews, whatever it is called in your nation. Of course, it's very important to separate data that's related from this bounce from trends, and that's what I'm going to try to do today. The good news is essentially the external account with current account deficit narrowing rapidly and financing improving somewhat. The bad news is twofold. Unemployment and inflation are extremely sticky at very high levels. The ugly, the really, really ugly, is Turkey's official statistics agency Turkstat constantly doctoring the data. That's manufacturing data, which makes reading the real picture extremely difficult. Okay, let's start with a few examples of how monthly and annualized cleaned up data are different. For instance, industrial production is growing on a year basis at a clip of something like 25%. But if you adjust it for seasonality and for working days, etc., as you see, industrial production is actually decelerating quite rapidly. This is the actual normalization. And even though the correlation is not as tight as it used to be, there is a strong link between GDP growth and industrial production growth. And as the chart illustrates, both of them will decelerate in the next data publication, which will be the second quarter of 2021. Let me give you another example. Just a second, here it is. Okay. This is retail sales volume, which is a good preliminary indicator of household consumption. The pale line is the monthly data, which has just soared through the roof. The thick red line is 3-month seasonally adjusted moving average data, which sort of cleans it up from the seasonal humps and bumps. As you see, of course, there is a recovery in June as people head for vacation, take out loans, to buy whatever they missed during the lockdowns, gifts for their kids, etc. But the jump is much less pronounced compared to the monthly data. Okay, having illustrated the difference between the data jumps driven by COVID-19 related normalization and the trends, let's move on to the good news, which is the external account. Is this the right one? Sometimes the decline in the current account deficit is not good news because it might mean that actually the economic activity is collapsing. But this time, I have genuine good news from Turkey for you. Turkey's shrinking current account deficit is driven by soaring export volumes, which are illustrated in this chart by the, oh my God, I'm colorblind by the way, by the orange line. And the import volume is shown by the green, or it is the un-orange line. Sorry. Why am I in such a good mood? We haven't done a natural disaster for the last 2 days, and that's, believe me, in Turkey, that's sufficient to make a person happy. Current account deficits declined to 1.1 billion per month in June. That's the latest data point. They are going to decline in July and August as well. But if these natural disasters continue, uh, the current account deficit might increase again. Do you say? No. I'm going to show you a few lines of text from Inveo Invest, a prime Turkish brokerage house which publishes excellent um, reports. And there they say they estimate a current account deficit of 13 billion dollars. I'm sorry, that's the central bank's estimate. Their estimate is 19 billion dollars, which put in a perspective is something like 2.5% of Turkey's expected GDP. That's very easy to finance. And I've talked to other economists, they more or less concur with this 19 billion dollar forecast, and it's easy to finance. By the way, financing is getting better in the sense that Turkey is one of the few countries that has deleveraged, that is, reduced its foreign borrowing during the pandemic. But now, Turkish banks and corporates are paying off a smaller percentage of their maturing foreign loans. In fact, while banks roll over 90% of their maturing syndicated loans, Turkish corporates are actually borrowing more than they are redeeming. In fact, for every dollar of debt that comes due, they are borrowing $1.3. Usually, foreign borrowing is of longer maturity than domestic borrowing because it's used for project financing. That's for capex, buying machinery and equipment. So that's very good news. Let's move on to the bad news. I'm not gonna talk about how poorly managed inflation is in this country. It has reached almost 19% in July data. Because I'm not going to talk about it because you can look down, you will see a highly unique Turkish problem, chronic high inflation, one of the last videos I have shot, and there's a very detailed explanation of why Turkey can't deal with its chronic inflation disease. This is June inflation data. This is June unemployment data. You see unemployment declining no matter what measure you look at. It is declining. You might say, why is this such a bad news? Are you an enemy of the people? Well, even though this is prime hiring season because the hotels are opening for both domestic tourists and foreign, the broad measure of unemployment is still at 22.7%. And youth unemployment has barely budged from the yearly peaks announced in May. More importantly, I have read articles by Turkey's leading labor economist, Professor Dr. Seyfettin Gürsel. He claims, he sort of scratches his head and said, I really don't understand this data. What should drive employment growth is the services sector because shopping centers is now open, restaurants are open, hotels and resorts are hiring staff in preparation of the arrival of tourists, but the services employment has gone up very little. The industrial employment has gone up by 5%, and that's just not easy to comprehend. And let me show you the data here, which is another inconsistent aspect of the unemployment. Labor force participation rate, as shown, in the red line is declining, but employment rate is increasing. Why should labor force participation rate decline in a month when everyone in Turkey and around the world know that companies will be hiring? So that's a conundrum. Okay, let's go to the ugly part. I did a lot of Google surfing to find an article in English because people around the world don't seem to be focused on this particular problem. And that's understandable simply because Turkey has produced so much headline material in terms of attacks on Syrian refugees, one natural disaster after another one. The latest since my Turkey Annus Horribilis, the year of disasters video, is floods in eastern Black Sea region, which up to now, which is Sunday, 15th of August, caused 60 deaths, and roughly 300 people are missing and feared to be dead. Just a second, let me find this. Okay, so finally, I found an article in Cyprus Mail, which, by the way, comes from Greek Cyprus, but hey, I find them credible. I have also provided the link here. The article is penned by my old friend Andrew Rosenbaum, a very reliable journalist who for a while worked in Turkish press as well. You can click the link and read it, but essentially what it says is that the head of Turkstat agency told regional directors not to record high prices or to manually adjust high price increases in items which have a noticeable weight in the consumption basket. This is really the kind of third world ghetto stuff that gives Turkey a bad name. This is why I called it ugly. And for people like us who pretend to be economists, I mean, if you don't have data, then you are no better than an astrologist, a person, who tells you your fortune by looking at the stars or constellations. And I'm just laughing at myself. Why do I even bother? Why don't I just go out there like a lot of Turkish YouTubers do and rant about the AKP government? Or, if I feel to do so, rant about the opposition. That's the state of affairs in Turkey as of 15th of August, 2021. Thank you very much for watching Real Turkey channel. Atilla Eşalara says goodbye from Istanbul.